we do have a commitment on behalf of both the City of Edmonton and the Province of Alberta, and they do seem to have finally got it, although the city was first, the province took a while, to understand that housing first as a concept works. So if you've got someone that's homeless and, you know, a drug addict or whatever, it really does work to get them into a house or an apartment and then work with them on the rest of their problems. And up until now, we've always gone at it the other way. We'll work with you on your drug addiction, and when you're clean, then we'll put you in a house. Well, it rarely ever worked. But we do find the housing stuff works first. But that's one small program that's quite specific. Then there are a number of subsidized housing programs, including a subsidy for seniors, for example. Then there is a wider social service one in which people that are between 18 and 55, really, can access, according to their income, can access a program that is paid for jointly by the city and the province, which is a subsidy. So you have to have a contract with rental companies that have apartments, and the person has to qualify, so that's a two-parter. And when the market gets good, you'll find that the apartment owner people don't want to have all of their units tied up in the subsidy. And it's not usually all of them. Let's say that in an 180 unit apartment, maybe 10 would be subsidized. And then they want to get out of that contract because they're going to make more money renting it at a higher rate. And the subsidy is always, okay, if the market rate for that apartment is $1,000, the individual can only afford to pay $600, and the subsidy then is the $400 that goes to the apartment owners. So that's the subsidy rate. So there's that's a second program around subsidy. And then you've got the programs to create low-income housing. And one of them was called Cornerstones, and the city actually has one, and they are trying to create more units that are affordable housing. So they're buying property, buying land, working with agencies like the Trust, Land Trust, and they are trying to create housing. So the Arts Hub, for example, was one of the housing that they created, and it was specifically for artists, and it's below market value. And you can see how many different kinds of programs there now are around subsidizing people, like what can they afford to pay and what's the market rate. So there's those subsidies. There actually is housing that is owned by the province and by the city that they rent below market value for people to get into. So that's a subsidy in itself. And then there's the ones where they contract with apartment owners to rent to people at a certain rate, and then they top it up to market value. And those are the ones that disappear on us. And we have a lot of those downtown, right? Because we've got a lot. We have, don't turn your head. Don't move, Laurie. So we have a lot of those downtown, and that's when we really notice the strain, right? We get lots of calls in the office from people that are just desperate, because where else are they going to find an apartment for X amount of money? And they end up way to heck and gone away from services and stuff at the edge of town, which is not great.
Okay, she's asking about the Cornerstones project. And Cornerstones is a housing project that's paid for by the province, by the city, and by the, I think, the federal government. So 3 different levels of government all pay into it too. It's directed, or the projects are determined by the city, and they can direct money towards new housing projects. And they're meant to be sort of innovative or to fill a gap. So potentially, yes, it could be used for seniors housing. Recently, it was used for a project that was over on 118th, the Nina Haggerty Center, and the Cornerstones project bought the condos there and then used it for the arts habitat. So either for established or even aging artists were able to get, I don't think they actually own them, they're not condominiums, but they're rentals that are below market price for them. So hearing that the project was a pilot and that it's going to end in December, but here we are at the end of October, and we don't know if that program's going to keep going.
Oh, so it's nothing to do with like capital housing?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. And to be fair, it was a pilot, and
Yeah.
pilots always have a time limit, right? They always end at some point. But people are very anxious to have this particular program continue on. So that's the feedback that they're getting, and we'll see whether they listen to it. The minister, I did hear the minister talk about it today. We were both in the same media conference, and he really didn't know was the answer. I sure hope he does, because that housing money is important to us. So.